Good evening, and thank you so much, everyone. We're welcome to another edition of the Candid Talk Podcast. Today we've got Tola as a guest of ours today. Tola is an anti-money laundering expert and who has got a lot of interest in various fields as well, like music and various other sports, various other sections. Really, I don't know. I'm losing my words, but she has a varied range of interests. She's also a social commentator as well. Today we're going to be speaking to Tola on just a few things around cryptocurrency and also her views on feminism. And to kick this off, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm here today with my usual guest, Mondiu, with my usual talk host, Mondiu. And Mondiu, say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Tola, nice to have you on the show.
Tola, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So we'll just get to the road as quickly as possible. So I'm going to start from the cryptocurrency point of view, basically. So I'll start by asking Tola, what actually attracted you to cryptocurrency in the first place? I know this is one of the things that you're known for on social media.
Making money. That's it. Making money, and the new technology, but mostly making money. Yeah. That's what drew me in. Yeah.
That's short and sweet. So when that's absolutely fine. So when was this, and what was it that actually, I know you say it was making money, but what exactly was it that, so for example, I know that there are a few people on my timeline on Twitter. I think one of them was yourself as well. That led me to, into my own journey in cryptocurrency as well. So what was it exactly? Was it someone that you saw that was doing really well in cryptocurrency that made you jump in, or what was the?
So my friend Lotana, better known as Sugar Belly, was already trading. She's a tech head, so she works in the tech space.
Yeah.
She was already trading, so we just started talking about it, like, oh, buy XRP, oh, buy this one, buy that one. And she sort of just showed me the ropes and showed me the possibility of making a lot with a little if you're lucky. And I was like, yeah, okay, I've got some spare change. Let me see how I go with this. So that was 2017. I didn't really understand what I was doing, but I knew I could make some money. So at a point, I made 8 Bitcoins. I lost them all because I didn't understand what I was doing.
Wow.
2017 was a crazy time. The markets went nuts. People were millionaires overnight. And she and I were basically just feeling our way around in the dark. So as much money as we made, we lost everything. You know what I mean? So that was a time for me to learn the game, really. And that was a good learning experience. So I've taken what I learned from that time and I've sort of just applied it going forward. So yeah, Sugar Belly is the one that got me into crypto.
Oh wow, that's
yeah.
That's wow. 2000 was a crazy year. I've looked at I looked at a few. So I looked at the historical price of
2018. You meant, or sorry, 2017. You meant
17. Yeah, 2017. Apologies. 2017.
So from summer 2017 to January 2018 were the highest days of crypto. Basically.
Yes. Yeah. It was crazy. I think I looked at the historical price of I think XVG, for example, one of the coins. And if you had put in like $100, for example, in January of 2017, if you bought just $100 worth of it, by December 31st, it was worth about $1 million or something like that. I don't think what.
Listen, I bought XVG with about maybe 120 in July. XVG is one of the earliest investments I made. By December, that 120 was worth 22,000. Now, sell. Me, I was feeling like a big girl. Like, look at me, look at my money. Everything pew. Everything pew. Because I told you I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I was just looking at the numbers, feeling good with myself. The market crashed. I lost everything. The only thing I didn't lose in 2017 was my principal. I entered with 2,000. When all the crash happened and everything, my account was probably worth like 4K. So I even made 2K extra. But at a point, my account was like well over maybe 280K. But I never cashed out because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I'm so sorry to swear. But
No,
it's
no,
just
it's
like,
fine.
yeah, I lost everything basically. And that's what crypto can do. You know, crypto can make you so much money, but if you don't know what you're doing, you lose it just as quickly. The market is not kind. It just does its own thing. So you have to be smart. Yeah.
No, absolutely spot on. Wow, that's crazy. So, where do you, for those of our listeners who'll be listening to this, where do you think the market is right now in terms of
we're in a bear market for sure. I think possibly BTC is heading below 30, so mid 20s, low teens. I mean high teens. I think BTC is definitely heading there. But that's just my thoughts. Obviously, this is not investment advice. You should always do your own research. You should always do your own research. Yeah.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
If you're looking to get into crypto, this is probably the best time. You know, because a lot of people are running. The best assets are at a heavy discount. So if you buy now, again, non-investment advice. If you're interested, do your own research. But if you buy now and hold for a while, that's when you hold for a while, that's when you make the best gains. If you're not interested in day trading or scalping. So if you buy some really stellar assets now, hold for like a year or two, that's where you have the best, the best profits. For example, I bought Aave in 2018. After the crash, I had like $22 left on Binance. I thought, let me just buy this lend because it was the cheapest thing on Binance at the time. That's how we had DeFi summer in 2020. My $22. I want you also imagine this with me. My $22 topped out at just under 3K. So if I had put like $1,000 in it, imagine. It's happening everyone with money. So,
wow.
My $22 topped out at £2,000. I bought this asset. It was called ETHLend rather, in 2018. Yeah. So I put $22 in it. So this summer it made the change to Aave. And yeah, that $22 just went crazy. And I made a cool sum out of it, So that's if you hold for a while in a stellar asset or an asset you understand what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
If you hold for a while, it will come good. It will come good, yeah.
Okay. I know that we're really, really short time. I think we've just done about 7 to 8 minutes already. And we're just going to be on for 30 minutes or thereabout. So I'll just move on. I'll just ask you.
Yes, apologies to your guest. I have a little party happening in my house, so apologies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, not a problem. I'll just quickly ask one question and then I'll throw it open to the other co-host to see if you can, if you have any other question, just quickly, really. So what are as a anti-money laundering person, what do you think are your concerns for cryptocurrency? What are your concerns for cryptocurrency? That's one. And then two, what do you think about NFTs? Just quickly.
Okay, I'll take the second question first.
Yeah.
NFT stands for non-fungible tokens, right? So basically, it's to digitize ownership of digital assets. I think it's really young. The technology is really young right now. And I think if you haven't bought something in the very, very early days, you should chill and see where the tech is going. I think it's revolutionary tech in terms of owning any intellectual property that exists in the digital space. It's revolutionary, but I think it's very early days still. We're still figuring out the utility and the efficacy of this tech. So it's worth your while to wait and see where it's going, but also inform yourself as you're waiting. Maybe have your eye on a few things, or just chill. I wouldn't put my money in it right now because we don't know where it's going, but I'm certainly keeping an interest in the space, but I have not invested in any NFTs because I think they're overinflated because people don't understand it. So it's sort of like a gold rush right now, right? So just give it a few years, maybe next year when crypto wakes up again and more stellar artists and more stellar projects come online, the prices will be more reasonable. You would have had time to understand between now and then you go in. So yeah, I think NFTs are definitely going to be revolutionary to any intellectual property in the digital space. So to your first question, you see, I don't have any worries about cryptocurrency that I don't have about fiat. That's regular money, right? The end goal of a money launderer is to integrate their funds into the financial services, into the financial system rather. So anything that facilitates that integration is a worry from a money laundering perspective, right? So in order to get your money onto a crypto exchange, the ones that ask you for KYC, so your Binance, Bittrex, KuCoin, Gemini, you need KYC. So you need to submit your passport and proof of address. And they will only repatriate your funds into a proper bank account. So that way there's a trace. They know your identity. They put the money in your bank account. So if the tax people knock on their doors or the police knock on their doors, they can say, this individual made these trades and any profit realized was transferred to this account, right? That's for most retail investors, that will be the steps. But see, if you're looking to launder money, even if you're, so for example, I can buy Bitcoin anywhere in the world. Then move the Bitcoins onto an exchange, right? So instead, when I realize profits, instead of moving my money into my bank account, say I realize I turn my profits to USDT, that's US dollar tether. Tether is a cryptocurrency that's pegged to the US dollar. So one tether equals one USD, right? One US dollar. If I turn my profits into USDT, I don't have to repatriate into a normal account. I can then move my tether off that, send it to someone else who can either give me raw cash or move money in bits into my account. So they can never tell that I made any money from cryptocurrency or I integrated my money using cryptocurrency. But guess what? That loophole exists for fiat as well. So it's not new. The only thing crypto has over fiat is that it's naked. So every single transaction you can see on the blockchain. Every single transaction is visible on the blockchain unless you use some privacy assets like Monero, like XHV, like Dero. Those ones are dark, you can't see them. Or you can even move your Bitcoins, you integrate it into other Bitcoins, so you move it little by little and you move it around so much that it's hard to trace. But guess what? The same thing exists for money. So I think for my concerns personally, it's just to make sure that the exchanges that deal in any jurisdiction ask for KYC. So it doesn't matter even if you make your funds in USDT and you move it out. Anytime the same thing that exists for fiat, so anytime someone makes a transaction of up to $10,000, it's recordable, it's reportable. The same thing should occur in crypto. When someone uses even the stable currency, so USDT or USDC, they should still record it. So in case law enforcement or the regulators want to look into a particular account of the transaction history of a particular individual, the records are there. And like I said, most credible exchanges already have these mechanisms in place. The only thing that we don't have is solid regulation, because the regulators are also trying to catch up with cryptocurrency. So they're not sure exactly what it is, where it is, we're headed rather. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. Thanks for that. Do you have any questions? Considering.
Yeah, so my question is going to be on the same topic. So obviously, like you said, we're still struggling with the regulatory aspect of cryptocurrency, and I think the most recent guidance we received from FinCEN in the US was that they were going to issue some specific guidance to reporting entities on cryptocurrency, and obviously it's going to sort of help mitigate the risk. But again, it looks like they are not going to. It doesn't look like they are going to be ahead of the game anytime soon. Now, in Canada, we have the Canadian AML legislation that covers cryptocurrency now. You have to report, I think, 10,000 in crypto as large virtual currency, and you also have record keeping requirements as well. Now, where I'm going with my question is, do you think that we might start looking at the regulatory aspect in Nigeria, or we are still going to maintain the status quo that we have now, which is to stay away from it?
Nigeria is one of the largest peer-to-peer markets for cryptocurrency, right? So the market is far ahead of the regulators. The regulators are either playing catch up or they're playing possum. The market will move regardless of what the regulators do. It is in our interest, especially given how weak the Naira is. I advise people who are doing business, convert your assets into USDC at the very least. The regulators in Nigeria will have no choice but to catch up with cryptocurrency, because when the Naira tanks, as it's tanking, it's over 700 Naira to 1 GBP right now. people will want a more predictable, a more stable currency. So they're looking, I mean, you can transact in crypto from your phone. You don't need anything special. Bitcoins has its own stable currency, which is NGT. You can buy NGT. That's how they circumvent the ban. You can buy NGT, which is pegged against the Naira. Buy your NGT. That way you've got USDC or USDT. That opens the gateway of the crypto universe to you. And you're free to do what you want. So the regulators in Nigeria think that they're being smart, but really they're going to be forced to catch up rapidly, because the way the market is moving, Nigeria is one of the biggest P2P jurisdictions for cryptocurrencies. People are actively trading crypto by the hundreds of thousands every single day. The regulator will have no choice but to catch up. So instead of banning cryptocurrency or banning your financial services from integrating crypto funds, you need to work with them, because clearly people need it. People are using it to buy from China, to buy from the US, to buy from the UK, to do peer-to-peer transactions, to do money transfers. People are using it. So our regulator needs to wake up and understand that even if there are no governing rules, there are no protections for your retail clients or your retail crypto users, people are willing to take the risk for the security or the seeming security of a cryptocurrency. So that's your USDT and your USDT. Already using it. So it behooves the regulator to wake up, especially retail investors, from being burnt and from being taken advantage of, and work with exchanges like Bitcoins, Binance, KuCoins, the ones that operate in Nigeria. Work with them to ensure that you've got your BVN, you can identify the end client or the purchasing clients, you can identify them at each step. That, for me, in my own opinion, is the best thing to do, because Nigerians are trading crypto by the numbers. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you so much for that. Stanley, you got anything on this topic before we move to the next?
So, yeah, quick one question. When Mondi was speaking, he was talking about the US regulation and Canada, and you did say that even the US, they're not exactly sure, or what they're doing won't be enough to, sort of regulate or catch up, or, sort of formalize this whole process. And I was just wondering, isn't that the same situation that the Nigerian Central Bank is in? All of the regulators are, all struggling to catch up with a fast-moving currency move. If I will use the word movement, so is CBN really behind? I think that the only side they've heard on is saying they are banning it, right? They are almost at the same level as their counterparts around the world. I'm just wondering, isn't that the situation?
That's a great question. But if you know now that in Canada, in the US, in the United Kingdom, the consultation paper is being issued every week almost. Consulting crypto, the biggest crypto players, what are the weaknesses you see? How can the regulator better serve this industry in protecting retail investors and in protecting this nascent, this growing technology? Because the end goal is not to cripple the technology, but to ensure that terrorists and people who mean harm don't have easy and free access to move money all over the world, right? That's their primary interest. In the US, once you're pegging anything against the dollar, or you're using the dollar for anything, or you're in their jurisdiction, obviously they have regulatory rights over you. So Binance can't operate in the US, for example. Gemini had to be approved and regulated before it could operate. So that means that you agree to basic KYC principles. You identify your customer at the very least, right? So to me, given where the Naira is and given how crypto has filled the gap for predictable transactions and whatever, it shows you that there's a need that crypto is serving for the Nigerian audience. So the very least for me, what the CBN should have done is to have a sit down with Binance and say, all the clients coming from this jurisdiction, you need their BVN at the very least. You need to identify them at the very least. Work with Binance and work with the banks. So if there's a criminal that's using crypto to move funds around, if you can't identify them, how are you going to stop the flow of funds? The banks are not allowed to receive crypto money. The exchanges are not allowed to operate in Nigeria. So people are just doing straight up peer-to-peer. You don't understand who's sending the money. You don't understand who's receiving the money. You don't have an overview. You don't have an insight into those things. Yeah. So that for me is actually the number one issue that's facing our regulator right now. I think it's a technology they should embrace and not shy away from. But that's a good question. Thank you.
So thank you so much for that. So I just want to move on to the next part of our conversation, and it's centered around women's rights and your thoughts on it. I've seen recently, in the light of recent events, but even apart from that, I remember, I think I read one of your tweets where you said that you're not really all for feminism, you're more about womanism. I'm not sure if I got that right. So first of all, what is womanism, and how is that different from feminism in your point of view?
Can you hear me well? Can you hear me
Yes.
well? Okay,
Yes.
I
excellent.
can hear you clearly, sorry. Yeah.
Excellent. Womanism for me is really about the relationship ultimately between men and women, because we share this planet together, right? So it's everything feminism is about, with the added inclusion of the relationship between men and women, right? So I'm so sorry, I'm outside. I was trying to get away from the noise in my flat, but I seem to have encountered even more noise outside. Yes.
That's why I can hear you.
Excellent. So womanism really looks at the historical disadvantages that Black people have suffered. So the Black people includes men and women, Africans in the diaspora. So that's continental Africans, Africans in the US, in the Caribbean, in South America, etc. So womanism includes race as well as gender. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does absolutely make sense. So essentially, womanism, if I get you correctly, covers both. It's not just women alone. It's just women and men, but of the Black race. Am I right?
So it's everything feminism stands for: the social, cultural, legal inclusion and equality of women, right?
Right.
As well as the added elements of the racial injustice factors. So when people talk about the patriarchy,
Yeah.
it's funny because you can't really have a lot of these conversations on social media.
Unfortunately.
Black men on their own cannot be part of the patriarchy because ultimately they don't have the power. That's not to say Black men cannot be misogynistic or sexist, but they are not part of the patriarchy because they don't have the powers that I'm talking only in the Western society, not in Nigeria.
Yeah.
They are not part of the patriarchy because they don't have the power that fuels the patriarchy. So that's political power, economic power, cultural and social power. They don't really have it. So that's why they're excluded from, if you really want to go deep, that's why they're excluded from the patriarchy. But that's not to say that they're not misogynistic or sexist though. But in order to get to the place where we want to get to, whereas women are equal before the law in culture and in customs, we cannot as women solve the problem on our own. Because we are involved in raising men, we are involved in loving men, we are involved in having children with men. So that's where feminism differs from, womanism differs from feminism. It's saying you have to take a holistic look at this thing. Do you understand? Men and boys need to be raised better and women are involved in that. That's why we also have to involve men in this our struggle. That's not to say that it's somehow easier because men will be men at the end of the day. But that's where feminism is sort of crafted from this. Because if you look at the beginning of the suffragettes movement, Black women were not included. Do you understand? Black women were not included. So that's why Alice Walker said, and she said it best, womanism is to feminism as lavender is to purple. So that is to say, lavender is a derivative of purple. Feminism is a derivative of womanism, because womanism includes both genders being better so that one gender can be the best. Because right now women don't have, that's why feminism is still relevant, because we're still fighting for our rights. We're still fighting for the rights to live, the right to go to school, the right for female children not to be mutilated, etc., etc. But who holds the societal powers? It's men. So instead of us saying men, it's like, okay, listen, you're holding all these things. We need in on that, and you're wrong. So in order to fix this wrong, you have to be an active participant in righting those wrongs. You cannot just sit on the side and wait for women to do the work and say, okay, the work is done. You also have to question yourself. You also have to contribute to the fight. That's what That's what separates womanism from feminism for me. Yeah.
Fantastic. So is there a place for allies? Because I know in movements like this, we also talk about allyship. So is there a place for, say, like non-Black women or other races in this fight? Is there a place for,
There's feminism. There's feminism for that.
That's it.
Womanism is specifically looking at the confluence, at the intersection of race and gender.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Not everything doesn't have to involve everybody. Like, you just find the one that fits you and get in there. You don't have to have space here. Do you get me? We're all fighting for the same goals, but our approaches can be different. It's fine.
Fantastic. All right. Okay, I'll leave the floor now for Mondiu or Stan. Any one of you wants to go first? Mondiu?
Stan, you can go.
Yeah, so maybe I want to take like a bit of different approach, and which is, and I know that is a scary topic to get into, is the whole trans issue, which has caused quite a big.
I anticipated this one. Go ahead.
Yes, it's scary even for me to ask a question. I'm even very scared, But I just, this is one area that I still haven't understood where the world stands on, and which is trans women and women as it relates to sports, competitive sports, right? If you remember, like a few years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, there's the South African lady, or
The caster.
What's her name again?
I think Semenya.
I'm careful not to misgender anyone. Semenya, yeah.
Semenya,
and her participation, I think it was Semenya, yeah, in the Olympics, right? And there's the news recently of the Australian who has been cleared, to participate in the women competition at the Olympics as well. And I'm just there wondering, is this going to be sort of like a trend where trans women are going to take over the women competition? And I think this is also sort of in line with how you were trying to differentiate between womenism and feminism.
Okay.
Is this something
so
to worry about?
I understand your question, and it's a big, if you follow me on Twitter, it's a big concern of mine, right? So I'll start off by saying this, and I don't care whose ox is God. Trans women are a subset of men. Trans men are a subset of women. Okay, I do not believe that a trans woman is a woman. I believe a trans woman is a trans woman, and transness is a subset of the original biological gender. If you look at Nigeria, you have the Endowda. The Endowda have existed for hundreds of years. They don't try to say, in order to accept us, in order to validate us, you must pretend that we're women. The space for gender, for them to be a different gender, to represent themselves the way they want, exists in language and in fact. If you look at the South Pacific, you've got what they call the Ifafafine. The Ifafafine are men who are more feminine, and they present that way. And they don't say, in order for you to accept us, you must call us women. If you look at South Asia, you've got the Hajara. The Hajara have existed once again for hundreds of years. People know that they're men who prefer a more feminine presentation. They're there. If you now go to Thailand, where they even do the full surgery, sometimes you look at a person, you won't even know that this person was ever a man in their life. But guess what? They are called ladyboys. The space and the culture exists, and nobody's fighting to say, in order to say, ladyboys are human, you have to call them women. Because the human biology is complicated, but it's complicated in a space where, in order for us to exist, we have to widen, not tighten. You cannot, on the one hand, tell me gender is a spectrum, but on the other hand, tell me in order for me to validate you, I have to lie to you and tell you that you're a woman. I refuse to do that. Okay, that's one. Two, in the sports arena, I love everything that's happening. I love it. Because ultimately, women's sports exist because women cannot compete with men. We need, for example, the USA team, World Cup winners, at least 3 or 4 times. They played a group of 15-year-old boys. They were thrashed. Thrashed. These are not like championship boys or anything, just regular 15-year-olds. They were thrashed. So now you want to tell me that somebody who's a man that has now decided that he's a woman should be Look, many women's sports only gained official recognition in the last 50 years, some even in the last 30 years. You've got collegiate experiences in the US that only started in the 70s, right? And there's space for men's sports. There's always been space for men's sports. You want to tell me that we understand the need to create gendered sports, but all of a sudden someone will put on lipstick and a dress and say he's a woman, and we should now shift the women and put him there. I think the issue is we need to understand that there's nothing wrong with being a trans person. There's nothing wrong with being transsexual. But we also need to further stop lying to ourselves in saying that the only way you can validate, in quotes, a trans person's experience is to say that they're now their new gender. Biology does not change. You can pop all the medicine you want. You are born a man, you remain a man. Now you can be a more female presenting man, but you were born a man, you remain a man, and you need to compete, as far as I am concerned, in your biological gender, which is girls versus girls, boys versus boys, because ultimately it's girls and women that will lose out, because these people are coming on our turf. They're not how many times have you heard trans men trying to fight men, or run against men, or box against men, or play football? You haven't heard it, because trans men just don't pose the same threat, because ultimately they are women, and physically we are not as strong. That's it. But every week you will hear one new athlete who's decided that he's a woman, wanted to compete against women. For what? Then what is the point of gender sports? You might as well say, okay, all you men who want to run, make an interfield together, and whoever wins, wins. Because this is the end of gender sports if we allow this. So I am strongly against it, but I strongly support the rights of trans people to live as they want to live. I just refuse to repeat the lie that trans men are women. Trans women are women, because they are not. They are what they are, trans women, which is a subset of maleness. That's it.
Wow.
That's my opinion on that.
Bane, please, let me just, so how do we accommodate, so, focus on sports. Are we going to get to that point where we have to create a separate category for trans?
To me, there's no issue. There's no issue. To me, there is absolutely no issue, because the people who are saying that they're trans now, they already have a category. That's the male category. This is Laura Roberts, the New Zealand person that's been going to lift weight.
Yeah.
The male weightlifting category already exists. So why do we need to create a third one? We don't need to create a third one. Go and join your fellow men and lift against them. When you finish competing in sports and you want to present yourself as a woman in society, that's your business. But for competition purposes, people should have to compete under their original gender. In the Caster Semenya case, it's a bit difficult because she was born without ovaries, without any female reproductive organ, but she has testes, right? So she has the male reproductive organ. But what happened was, when you're in the womb and your body forms, there was a malfunction. So she got what looked like a female sexual organ, not reproductive organ, sexual organ. But internally, she is male. She's from a poor South African family. They didn't consult a doctor and raise this individual as a man or whatever. They raised her as a woman. So Caster Semenya has all the belief, in my opinion, the rightful belief that she's a woman. I don't have any problems in saying Caster Semenya is a woman. She did not go and do trans. That's how she was raised. On the outward, that's how her body presents. The issue now is she produces way more testosterone than your average woman. So how do you protect women's sports? You have to take very, very difficult, heartbreaking decisions. And in Caster's case, I really feel for her. But I think the decision for her not to compete is the right one. You have to protect women's sports. I'm sorry. And I think protecting the larger goal of women having a fair level playing field to compete, to me, is far more important, unfortunately, and this breaks my heart to say, that individual cases. I feel for Caster, but I think protecting women's spaces is far more important. And that's my take on that.
It's funny, isn't it? Just to add to what you said, it's not a question, it's just a comment, really. It's funny, isn't it, that the ban on one side, Caster Semenya was banned. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. But we're not having cases of, trans.
Well, they have to lower. So Caster Semenya wasn't banned.
Oh, okay.
Her testosterone is too high to compete in particular categories, right? If you look at the news recently, the same case, people who suffer, I think it's CDC or CDS, some kind of sexual disorder, sexual reproductive disorder, right? So it's sort of, you present as one gender, but internally you might be another gender, right? Yeah. So that you produce too much testosterone. Caster has been asked to lower her testosterone within the range that female testosterone is. She has refused. So she wants to compete in the 500 meters, but she did not qualify. 5,000 meters, I think it is rather. 5,000 or 500, I don't remember. But she did not qualify. So they didn't ban her. They say you can either choose to lower your testosterone, which is hard because it involves medication. It's hard. Who wants to be pumping their body full of, or you can compete in this one race, but not these other races. So she tried to qualify for that race. She didn't make it. Do you understand? Yeah. So that's the issue at hand. So if in order for a transsexual individual to compete against women, you have to artificially lower your testosterone. But testosterone is only one of the markers. There's also physical strength as well. So in my opinion, a lot of trans women are going to start entering the competitions that require strength. So that's your hammer, your shot put, your javelin, your weightlifting, etc., etc. And I like it. I like it because it will force us to make a decision once and for all. Is women's sports worth protecting or not? So I need more trans people to come forward so we can make that decision now and make it once and for all. Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, on a personal level, have you been cancelled for this?
They've cancelled me 20,000 times. Who cares? I don't pay my bills. I don't care.
It hasn't caused. No one has tried to affect, because I know that when
but you follow me on Twitter, Manny, you know how these people do.
Every time I talk about that's what I'm saying, like stuff like that.
Someone will go to my LinkedIn, but my LinkedIn is not up to date, so I don't know.
Smart.
I have to protect myself somehow,
it's sad though. It's sad that we can't have a conversation, about this kind of issues without there being the kind of blowback that result in people losing their livelihoods. Has anyone else got? I mean, this could go on and on, but obviously we know that you've got guests. Has anyone else got any questions before we round up, so I can let Tola go back to her guest?
No, I think Tola has to go back to her guest.
Tola has proven. You know what this podcast has proven, because
she said 30 minutes and it's 38 minutes, right? So
what this particular episode has proven is that we don't need to. You don't necessarily need to have it as long as we normally do, because we normally take our time.
100%.
Over an hour.
No, but I owe you another episode. I will sit down, we'll talk. For as long as you require. I owe you another episode, I promise. Yeah. It's just I've got guests and I need to get back to them. But I'll definitely attend again once you invite me.
Definitely.
Yeah,
so
and I think
we need to get back to this topic as well.
Yeah, definitely. And we also need to talk about AML as well. So when next you have the chance,
I'll be really interested.
Okay,
definitely
speak to that. So one of the two questions we normally like to ask, our guest, it's kind of, just something that we ask towards the end of the podcast is one, what is the kindest thing that, I've just added one of them, to be honest. What is the kindest thing that someone has done for you? And then two, you're made the president of Nigeria today. What is the one thing that you're doing? What is the singular policy that everything else would walk around? So two questions. What's the kindest?
I think the kindest thing someone has done for me, and it's not just one person, it's my friends, right? It's to give me the grace, because I'm easily misunderstood. I'm a very passionate person. I'm quite marmite, so you either fuck with me or you don't. So I'm really grateful that I have the kind of friends that give me the grace, even when they don't understand me, to hear me out, to see what I'm saying. And they will say to me, I don't agree, but I see where you're coming from. I think that grace to be myself fully without having to, pander to what's popular or sort of self-censor. I think that is the kindest thing my friends have done for me. And I try to pay it forward by giving people that same grace to talk to me, regardless of what the subject matter is, without judgment. So I think that's the kindest thing that I received in my life, and I'm super grateful to Ocean for that. If I was the president of Nigeria today, first thing I would do is to decentralize governance if the power was within my hands. But if I can't do that by fiat, I would scrap NYSC.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Well, on that note, we will say goodbye to you. Thank you so much for coming, Tola. It's been a very, very, very informative and very educating podcast. Thank you so much for coming, and definitely we want to have you back again to have a proper conversation, a longer, not proper. This was proper.
For sure.
A longer one.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so there you have it, guys. This is the end of another episode. I want to thank our usual co-hosts for coming, Mondiu and Stan. I want to thank you to our guest, Tola, for
thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening with your guest. And yeah, by the way, nice house.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. I'm much obliged. Thank you.
All right.
So, take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye now.